Hi all, welcome to Chess 24/7, and you're encountering another stream for the weekend. Let me just bring the board on OBS. Awesome. So everything is perfect here. Let's get started with it. As usual, we'll be solving a few puzzles on the stream, and the idea is to reach 2500 if we can. I think I've been struggling with that particular range of 2500. Let's see if we can hit that range in this stream. Anyhow, enough said. Let's dive into it, and we're playing with white pieces. And this is that daily puzzle, so this should be relatively easy, and I hope we should be able to solve this. So I think I can capture an f5 here. Check, followed by g4, because this pawn on e5 will fall, because after e takes f5 check, king f5, g4 check. Now if he goes to king f6, then king d5 is just winning the pawn on e5. Yeah, and after ef5 check, king f5, g4 check. If king goes back to e6, then I've got king c5. Eventually I will reach e5 pawn, right? So this should be pretty simple. Let's go for this idea, and now let's go for g4. Is it king e d5? But what's the problem with g4 here? Oh, g4 king e4 is the idea. Wow. But first of all, let me just change the playlist of my of my Spotify. Um, um, let's try something from, I don't know, this one. Yeah, or maybe let me just go back. I have recently discovered this particular song, and I'm in love with this song. So maybe I'll play this particular song itself if I can. Awesome. Let's go for this. Anyhow, let's move on to our next puzzle. Um, how do I do that? Oh yeah, there we go. Awesome. So we're playing with white pieces in this cases. In this case, okay, so we're clearly down by a rook. Okay. So I do have knight coming to d6, hitting the bishop on f7. However, he has got bishop g6 or bishop h5, right? Let's see. Because my opponent does not have any real threats or real checks. Okay, yeah, he has got rook h1 check, but king h1 or bishop h1, and I'm still safe. So yeah, knight d6 looks good. Bishop g6, let's say. But that just falls to queen coming to e6, and then I win the bishop, right? Oh no, it doesn't. Because knight d6, bishop g6, queen e6 check, and then king h7 is always there. Yeah. I mean, I've got queen d8 check, but then he just simply goes to h7, right? And can I sacrifice? Because even if I sacrifice, I don't have anything there, right? So knight d6, bishop g6. Do I have anything there? Because after queen d8, king h7 is still going to be taking place. Knight d6, bishop g6, queen e6, king h7, and then hmm. Oh wow! So this idea also works after, or does it? Oh no, it does not work there. Mm, because this queen is also kind of unprotected right now, right? Um, okay, let's see. Knight d6, and this rook on c1 is also loose in some way or the other, right? Um, hmm, let's see. What do I mean, how can I improve my position here? What about queen coming to e5, hitting g7, right? How can he defend that? King f8. Yeah, I think this looks better. I mean, there's no way to defend g7. Yeah, he can probably go for something like king f8. But even then, queen g7, king comes to e8, and then knight d6. And I win the bishop, right? So yeah, this looks better. Let's go for queen e5. Really? Is it knight d6? What is this? And then king h7 maybe? And what's queen f8? And what's the problem with queen e5? Doesn't it? I mean, it's the same idea, right? Oh yeah, but then he's got queen c3 right away. I guess. Let's see. I think queen c3 is what the computer would be suggesting here. Ah, it's taking too much time. Let's move on to the next puzzle. Okay. Let's see. Can I push for d7, rook c3, and I promote? Check. King h7. Or if I just capture on b3, let's say a b3, d7, b2, and I promote the check, king h7. And similarly, rook b3, c b3, d7, b2, and I promote with check. And then I king h7, and then I've got queen d3 check, right? And I kind of defend everything. But then he's got a3 at some point of time. But then I've got queen b1, right? Yeah. So that should be good for white, right? I was pushing d7. Awesome. Okay, so that was the first puzzle of the stream which we were able to solve. So my opponent's king is not looking that great, I would say. So I've got this check on g1. So rook g1 check. The king cannot. I mean, he can come to f3 or f4. That's the only option. He can go to rook g2. Maybe. The other option is. In fact, I don't have any other checks. I mean, I have rook e3 check, but then you can intervene with rook f3. Yeah, this is better. Rook e3 check, rook f3, rook f3, king f3, and queen h3 is there. Rook e3 check. You can go to g2, but then I'm just winning there, right? So rook e3 should do the trick here. Yeah, let's see. Nice. Um, Now if I capture on g3, he has got knight g5 check, right? Um, hmm. Can I go for g5 here? G5 check. The king has only got one move, which is king f5. Yeah, and the knight can come to. Okay, wait. Can I capture on h3 with my rook? What can he possibly go for? I mean, I can capture on h3 with my rook, right? And there should be, it should, I think, be safe for. It should be safe for black, right? The other option is to play g5 here. G5 check, and then the king is running low on squares. He has got f5 there, yeah, and then queen g6, but then that falls to king g4, yeah, yeah. Okay, so g5, also knight g5 is there with check, yeah. So I think rook h3 looks good, right? Let's see. Nice. Um, Now if I can go to h8, but that just goes for knight f7, right? If I come to f8, he can move his king somewhere, and I will be in check with the rook on f2, yeah. King h8 is met with knight f7, yeah. Can I capture on f7, bishop f7, and then I can capture on f2, yeah, and that should be good because then I'll be against a bishop and a knight, and I'll be having a rook and a knight. So yeah, that should be good, right? Also, after king coming to f8, if the king moves away, I can just go for knight f6 and defend everything. I think this looks good, right? Because knight f6 saves everything. Awesome. Okay, let's move on to our next puzzle for the stream. We're playing with black pieces. Um, okay, my opponent king is not safe, but so is my king. This knight on c7 is kind of in a pin. So, and my queen is on g3 is also hit, by the way. The other idea is to just play queen h3 there. Queen h3. Luckily, I don't have any checks from my opponent. Okay, yeah, queen c7 is there, but then it's not that effective. So queen h3, the pawn is still in pin, and then I'm threatening bishop g3, check, followed by queen on h2, mate. Yeah. So I think queen h3 looks good here. Yeah. Bishop g2, knight g2 is there, and then I don't have anything. Okay, I have queen h3 there, but the same can be done right now also. Bishop g2, knight g2, queen h3. Right? Or queen h3 directly. I can go for that as well, because how is he going to defend that? Hmm. Bishop g2, knight g2 is forced. Queen h3. How does he defend the the king? I mean, even if you play something like knight f4, bishop f4, check, wins, right? And queen h3 directly also wins, right? But I'll go for bishop g2 because it's more force, I would say. Is it queen h3 directly? Yeah. Hmm. Okay, wow, this is interesting. I mean, I can capture on f f5, f5, but then knight f5 is there. If I capture this, he can capture my bishop there. Oh yeah, but this is also simple, right? Yeah, I just remove the defender. But what's the problem with bishop g2 directly? I just go for this. Knight takes and queen goes to it. How does he defend that? Oh yeah, he just creates an escape square. Awesome. Now if I go bishop d6, let's say, king goes to f1, and he escapes kind of because he has got e2 as well. Awesome. I think I should have thought about that as well. Anyhow, if you're playing with white pieces, okay, so we are in a fork. My bishop on a1 is lost. Yeah. Um. However, can we somehow take care of this knight after he goes to a1? I mean, if I play something like king c3, knight goes to a1, and then this knight on a1 is kind of trapped if you think about this, right? And then also I have a7 at some point of time. That is something I need to be aware of. So king c3, knight a1, and then this knight is not going out. Okay, maybe he can play knight b3 on the next move, but he can go for h7, bishop h7, and then king captures. Yeah, that could be an idea here. Also, the other idea should play king e5. If he captures on a1, I just captures on f5, and then I can go to g6 and push h7. And then this f pawn also becomes a pass pawn, right? I'll go for this because even if I play king c3, knight a1, and bishop d1, he has got d3. And why go for king c3? Because I'm not winning this knight anyhow. Instead, I should improve my king's position, right? So this looks logical to me. And now I. Hmm. Also, king f6 is now interesting. King f6 because if I capture on f5, bishop h7, and then this bishop is kind of active, right? King f6. The idea is to go to g7, push h7, or maybe first of all, yeah, I can go for king f6 here. Awesome. This should be the move now. Nice. Let's move on to our next puzzle for the stream. Okay, so I'm playing with black pieces here. Okay, let's see if I capture on b6. If he captures on b6, that's bad because of a7 and a8. But let's see if I capture on b6, can I do something with the knight? Because then I'm threatening to play b7 and continue with it, right? So if I capture on b6, how can I defend a8? b8, my bad. Hmm. Or let's say if I capture on b6, pawn a6, a7, I don't see he can capture defend a8. Also, this is a rook pawn, so it will be a little hard. But what about c6? But then he's got knight coming to e3. My bad. If I go for f3, knight e3 is there, right? So I think I should capture on g3 here. Awesome. Now if I play something like b7, g2, he can go for knight f3, right? What if I capture on a7? How does it defend a8? I don't see the move, right? But then if I capture on a7, he has got knight coming to g4 check. And then let's say if I go to something like, yeah, I mean, pawn a7, knight g4, pawn h2, knight g4. My king is in a fork now with the pawn on in h2. And then let's say if I go to king c4 maybe, knight a7. The, the problem is that this knight might be able to hold it because then he will be in that zone. Will he be? Yeah, he can go to f1 and then he can just move around. So that should hold everything. So maybe if I play b, if I play g2 there, g2, how does he defend b, uh, g1 there? He has to play something like knight coming to f3, right? And then I can play with my king there, something like that. Check, yeah, and then I think b, pawn g2 should be the move. Is it capturing there? What is this? Awesome, because now he doesn't have anything. Awesome. So let's say if I go for this capture, he can go for this move, and it does not matter what I do because this knight can now go to f1, come to e3, and kind of defend the pawn from getting to h2, and meanwhile this pawn becomes fast pawn. This much I know. Okay, let's move on to our next puzzle. So this is more of a middle game, yeah. So there's some pressure on h4. Bishop is undefended, right? Hmm. So what if I capture on g4 directly? Because there's pressure on h4 bishop, right? So let's say knight g4, bishop g6, pawn g6, queen g6, bishop h4. The rook is hit, right? Yeah. So after knight g4, bishop e7, queen e7. Let's say one of the pawns, let's say the f pawn captures on g4. I can capture on e3, right? And then I can win the bishop there. So yeah, this looks good. Capturing on g4, and now I can capture on e7, right? Or should I capture on e3? But then he is attacking my queen as well. So let's go for that. And now this should be winning. Awesome. Let's play with I mean we're playing with black pieces in this position. So there is some pressure on the rook on d1. Yeah. Also the rook on a7 is, I would say, I'm a little misplaced. Hmm. Also there's some pressure on b7 right now. Hmm. Let's see. Rook d3, rook d3. Yeah. And then what? I don't have anything, right? Also, I've got knight coming to d5 here. The pawn cannot capture because of queen e3 check, and then I just, okay, king h1 then, and then what? Rook d5, rook b7, and then everything falls, right? Yeah, maybe that does not work there. What about c5? Bishop c5, knight c5, queen c5, rook d3, rook d3. But then he thought f2. I mean, the king is not getting mated anyhow, right? Um, hmm, let's see. Hmm. Rook d. I mean, it could be that I have to move this knight and give some sort of discovered attack on the queen on b4, but I'm just not sure where should I move my knight. Also, c4. The idea is to play sorry, c5. The idea is to play c4 at some point of time because the knight is pinned, right? Although knight f2 is always there, so is knight b2, so the rook is defended kind of. Um, okay. I mean, I just can't think of anything right now. So maybe knight d6 comes to my mind. I attack the queen, right? Um, but then what? What's the idea with knight d6? Hmm. Just don't see it. Knight d6. c5. I mean, I can't just figure out. I guess I have to take a leap of faith, but nothing is striking me right now, to be honest. Let's see, knight d5, pawn d5, queen e3, check, king h1. I don't know. c5, knight c5, bishop c5 is there. I don't know. Mm, it's tough, man. I mean, I'll go for knight d5. I don't. It does not work, but then let's just go for that. Oh, somehow it does work. Now I can capture on e3, queen e3, or c5. Let's say c5, knight c5 is already. I mean, it's always there. I can capture on e3 there, right? Yeah, that looks good. c5, the queen is hit. Yeah, I think c5 should do it. Knight c5, knight e3 is always there. And now I can capture on e6, knight e6, and then I can capture, but rook captures, and then rook b2, and then even if I go for rook check, he thought king f2 there. Just capture directly on e3, right? And now I can not save. I mean, I can go to c2 and 8, but then my knight is trapped, kind of, right? Um, okay, but knight c4 is there, right? Awesome. Okay, so we're playing with black pieces here. So this king is in direct sight of my queen. I can just push and go for a check, but I'm not sure. And then I can also involve my g rook, so that looks very tempting right off the bat. Yeah, d3 check. But so does rook c2 as well. I mean, a rook is active, but then bishop c2 is there. Yeah, so maybe rook pushing the pawn to d3 check. The king can go to, then maybe I think he can go to f1, but then that is just bad because I just push and I win the bishop there. So after d3 check, he can go to the g file with g2 or g1. Let's say he goes to g1 with the idea of going to h1, and then another rook check, and king h1. Oh no, I can also involve my bishop there, right? Still king g1 is there, but then the rook goes there. I think d3 looks good. Wow, is it? I don't know. What's the move there? Let's see what the solution here. Okay, let's move on to our next puzzle. Probably I'll have a look at it later on. Okay, so now a3 is very tempting here. If he captures on a3, I just push for b3. If he captures, I just capture, and I mean the king can go to the square of the pawn on b3, but then I push b2, and then he can also go to c2. Yeah, okay, that's not that tempting, maybe. But let's see. Let's not discard a3 right away. a3. If he captures on a3, I can go for b3. If he captures on b3, pawn b3. Yeah, you can go for something like king d2. If I push for b2, king c2. Yeah, and he saves everything. What about c3? You can capture on c3 and then b3. If he captures, I just push for a3, and then there's no way to defend the a pawn. However, after c3, you can also push for b3 there. And then c2, king d2 is always there. So maybe I can go for b3 first. If he plays a3, then c3 takes and b2. So I think b3 you can also capture, but then c3, pawn c3 and a3. Yeah, this should be it. Okay, let's see what's the solution. c3. What's the issue with b3 right away? If you capture, just push there. And now this. Oh, but yeah, he can just go to. Wow. This is annoying as anything. Anyhow, let's move on to our next puzzle. We're playing with black pieces here. My opponent's king is kind of exposed, but so is my king. I mean, it's getting exposed. My knight on g6 is under attack. Okay, what can we do? Luckily, my opponent has dark square weaknesses, and I have a dark square bishop taking care of these squares, so that's fine. Um, okay. So I have this idea of knight h4. Knight h4, and I hit g2, right? How can you defend g2? Rook f2 is there, but bishop f2 check is all. It's always there, right? Um, I think knight h4 is the move to go, and then I can capture on f3, pawn f3. maybe yeah. Okay, pawn f3. Yeah, now I can capture on f3. If queen f3, I'll be happy to exchange because then I just win the bishop on h6. So let's just go for that. Awesome. Let's move on to our next puzzle. We're playing with white pieces here. So, okay. So this rook d8 check looks really interesting. And yeah, rook d8 check. Now he's got two options, king f7 or king g7. If he goes for f7, um, then king rook f8, king f8, queen f6, and I can get a draw maybe. King e8, king queen e6. Hmm. I'm not sure if it's enough to go for a draw there. But yeah, rook d8, king f7 is the only move he has got at the moment. And then I don't have any checks. Right? Oh yeah, I have queen b7, right? Yeah, this should be simple then. I mean, I'm not sure how the uh, puzzle would turn out, but I'm pretty sure rook d8 and queen b7 is the idea here. And that's enough for me to start at least. And now I have got rook f8, but then he can just go to, I don't know, king g5 maybe. But then queen d7 is there. After rook f8, if he goes to something like king e5, that should not be good, yeah, because of queen coming to e7 check, and then if he goes for something like, yeah, I think this rook f8 should do the trick. Also, I've got rook d6, but king g5 is there. I mean, I have to involve my queen somehow here. But queen rook f8, and so rook d6, they both are equally good in my opinion. Rook d6, king g5, queen e7. King h6 is bad because of queen h4. Yeah. Rook f8. I think rook d6. I'll go for that. Is rook f8? What is it then? Is it? Okay. Oh, strange. But what's the problem? With king g5, let's say. Oh yeah. Oh wow. Oh wow. I just did not see that I can win the. Wow. That's. Uh, so embarrassing. Let's move on to our next puzzle. So my queen is hit. Yeah. But I can just capture on c4. Yeah. But then my bishop is also kind of be taken away. Hmm. Let's say knight c4, pawn h6. Hmm. I think I have to capture on c4 here. Yeah. And now knight d6 is my idea. Yeah, knight d6. Oh wow, knight b6. Oh no, but then queen b7 is there. Even if I capture, he can capture back, right? So knight d6 looks good. How can he defend the bishop? Queen d8. Yeah. Let's see. Knight d6. Queen b8. How can I improve? I mean, how can I increase the pressure on d7 there? Hmm. Knight d6. Queen d8. And then what? The other idea is to play queen f6, kind of take care of the dark square weaknesses. But then rook d8, queen d8 is always there. If I play queen f6, queen d8. Okay. And knight b6, queen b7, knight goes to d7, queen d7 is always there. The other idea is knight d6, queen d8, knight e4. I'm going to go for f6. But we can go for something like, I don't know, f6, f5. Protecting f6 with the rook as well. Knight d6, queen d8. Rook f7, knight f7, rook f7 is there. Okay. 96, yeah. Hey, but I have got this idea. Knight e4. If you play something like f5, I can capture on d7, queen d7, and then knight goes to f6. But okay, and knight f5 directly. You can still go for, let's say, f5. And guys, I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so yeah, I think the idea is knight e4 with the idea of playing knight f6. Yeah, but let's after knight e4, f5, knight f6 does not work because of rook f6, rook d7, queen d7, queen f6. And the knight is hit. Yeah, but then queen g7 is always there. Let's see. Knight e4 maybe. Awesome. Knight f6 check. Queen f6, queen f6. Yeah, that should be it. Awesome. Let's go for our next puzzle. Okay. If I capture on g5, check. King g6, queen h5. Check, king f5. Pawn push, king e4. I think I have to capture on h4 first. Yeah, and now queen h5, king f5, and then I can go for g6, check. At least I can win the bishop on f7, but I know that's not what it is all about. King f6 is there. I can capture on f7 though. Yeah, but let's see. Also, I have to be aware of this knight move because my king is in light of this knight. Okay. An f5 push, pawn f5. Oh, yeah, that looks interesting. Pawn f5 check, pawn f5, and then queen h5 is made. So after f5 check, he can capture on g5. That's not possible. Yeah. So this should be it. Awesome. Okay. Let's go for our next puzzle. We are playing with what white pieces here, and the pawns are going this way. Yeah. Um, but there are a lot of pawns here, right? Okay, I can capture on d4, but pawn d4 and then these two pawns along with the a pawn. It's just hard to defend. But after knight d4, if he captures on with a pawn, I can go for a perpetual check there. Yeah. Um. So after knight d4, bishop d4 has to be played. This bishop is defending everything. I mean, at least these two pawns, and then this a pawn is just rolling down the board. And what about king c5? I still hit the rook, and I'm still threatening a mate with my. I mean, I do have some ideas of mating my opponent's king with the idea of knight g5 there. Yeah, let's go for. But after I can go for king c6 as well. Yeah, and still knight g5 is a threat. In order to defend that, he has to play something like king g4 or king d4, but we just capture the rook. Yeah. So king c6 or king c5? King c5, I've got this bishop check as well. Yeah, that's not good. So king c6 should be the move here. And what about king going to d7? That's met with e7. It's met with rook e4. So yeah, better is king c6. And now I can capture the rook. Awesome. Okay, so let's go for this puzzle. We're playing with white pieces. And just making sure everything is working fine on the stream. So we're playing with white pieces, and yeah, let's see. So my rook is hit. These two pawns are just too much for my pieces. I can go for rook f3 right now because the bishop on f5 is in a pin. So yeah, rook f3 is always there, but then he's got rook f7 check, and then king g3. But then the other rook comes to play on g1, king h2. Yeah, I get it. But then you can also push for e2 at some point of time. Yeah. The other idea is rook coming to h2, adding more pressure on the bishop on f5. If rook f7, then I can capture on. I can go to g3 there, but then you can also go for another check on g7, right? Hmm. What about rook h5? King h5, and then rook h2 check. Yeah, that should be it, right? That should be a mate. Okay, and now I can go for rook h7, rook h7 check. The other idea is rook coming to f3, going for g3, but then rook f7 is already there. So yeah, rook h7. I don't know, like king f8 maybe. Rook e7. He captures on f2, and then there's no way to defend f2 going to f1. Mhm. And what about rook g5? If he goes to the h file, let's say h6 or h7 or h8, then the other rook comes to h2 and that's mate. So after rook h5, he has to go to f6, f7 or f8, one of these three squares. But rook h7, he can go to f8, right? Rook h8, king g7 is there. Let's go for rook g5 here. Oh, is it rook h7? What is it? But what about rook f7 there? Okay, awesome. Okay, so this is going to be the last puzzle for our stream. Let's see if we can end our stream on a high. So let's see. My opponent's king is in the center of the board, so I have to do something explosive here. Okay. But right now, I capture an f7. That's one of the most typical moves in such positions, king f7. But then I don't have any checks with my queen or my rook or my bishop as well. Yeah. So king f7. Hmm. Let's see. I mean, if I capture on f6, you can capture back on f6, right? And then everything is saved with the knight here, not allowing any sort of tricks with pawn f6 and bishop moving there. So yeah. Hmm. The other idea is that this rook on a8 in some variations, if the queen ever moves from d8, I can capture it with my queen. That's something I need to keep an eye on. Um, okay. I mean, I can go for d5 with the knight d5. Okay, now not now, but yeah, after d5, pawn d5, let's say rook d5, and he just castles. And then what? Rook d7, queen d7, and the rook on a8 is now protected with the rook on f8. d5, what about he castles right away? Then I can capture on c6, but then I'm not sure if that's enough. I just don't see anything here. Not sure. D5, king castles. Um, Also, he's got three pieces. I've got only two pieces. Oh, I also have three pieces. I mean, really, we are equal. Um, it's got three, and for 7 pawns, I've got three and 6 pawns. So materially, we're almost equal. But it's just the lack of development that my opponent has, which I need to capitalize on. Yeah. So let's see. I mean, knight f7. It just looks intuitive, right? We are getting the king out of his safety, but then I don't have my light square bishop activated right now. The other idea is to play knight coming to d6, right? And he cannot capture the knight with his bishop because of queen c6 check. But after knight d6, he can capture with the pawn. Hmm. And then bishop h3 is still met with I don't know. Let's see, knight e6 at f7. What is it? d5. Wow. And then what? Bishop. Awesome. Such a simple puzzle. But I only realized it after I I ended up making a mistake. Yeah. Anyhow, let's solve this one. Yeah, let's see if we can solve this one, and then maybe call it a day. So if my opponent has some knight square weaknesses, but right now he has this bishop. Also I can capture on d5, but that would be a huge mistake because of rook g6 check. And then I lose my queen there. Yeah. The other idea is if I capture on rook f2, queen f2, rook f2, queen f2 check, king h1, and then queen h1 is mate, right? Um, rook f2 looks good, right? Yeah, let's go for rook f2. Yeah, and now I can capture on g6. I have to capture with my king. If I capture with my pawn, my opponent's queen can then get into attack. So let's capture with my king here. Also, it's not necessary I have to capture because I can go for king h7 there, right? But then it's bad because of queen g8 mate. So let's capture with the. If I capture with the rook, my king, he can go for queen g8 there. That is that's very terrifying. Um, because then I have got king f6 there. Queen h8 is there. Okay, that looks good. Now queen, I mean I can go for king f6 if queen goes to. Oh no, going to f6 is bad because of queen f7, right? So if I go to let's see, h5, he can capture on f7, or can he? He cannot. I can capture with the queen there. Rook captures, and then I don't have anything. Like, yeah, let's capture with the king because yeah, now I can capture the bishop there. Awesome. Okay, so it's been pretty great. Let's call it a day. I guess it's still a long way before I reach 2050, 2500. My bad. Anyhow, let's call it a day, and I'll stream tomorrow. And if you liked what you saw, then you can subscribe to my channel. I stream on YouTube and Twitch every weekend. So yeah, that's about it for the day, and see you tomorrow.
करके उच्चियां दी तारा